place for the members of the public to walk. Right? There are plenty of good shots to happen on the other side. Keep moving, please, sir.
Okay, Mina, give us a check again.
Sound check.
Is it working now? Is it better? Hello? stand up. Stand up.
Down, down, Israel!
This is not about equality. It's about territory and ethnic clearance. This would not lead to a one-state solution, but to the Bennett Plan. The annexation of Area C, which constitutes a major part of Palestinian land, with Palestinians transferred to the remaining 8% of the original territory. Core to any negotiations is East Jerusalem as the Palestinian capital. Trump, with one swipe, has destroyed this solution, which was overwhelming United Nations support. He joins Netanyahu, whose precondition for negotiations is the defeat of Palestinian national claims. This has always been a central part of political Zionism. Since its founder, Jabotinsky devised his own rule, its racist rule of Jewish-only land, labour and produce established by force, and his precondition only negotiate from a position of dominance. The United Nations defines racial segregation and domination by one group over another, inflicting harm, degradation, arbitrary arrest, denying democracy, nationality, freedom of movement, the creation of separate towns, the captive land, One Great Day, Jewish Voice for Labour, Independent Jewish Voices, Jewish Socialist Group, Free Speech on Israel. Israel and the border deputies prepared to speak for all Jews. They besmirch our name, they discourage our integrity. So read my lips, you do not speak for me, you do not speak to us. For we are all Jews for justice for Palestinians, who stand full square in solidarity with the Palestinian people.
Up next we have Yahya Abu Sidu from Olive. Olive is a Palestinian
You can't get on the stage.
Please welcome
You
Yahya.
cannot get on the stage.
Hello there.
Can I go inside next to the stage?
Yeah, you can't go on the stage or up to steps, but you can go next to the stage.
Next to the
Assalamu alaikum everyone.
Can you see?
No, no,
In
it doesn't go.
1980,
From where?
Israel
wedding
declared Jerusalem as their undivided capital. Ever since 1980, they've been treating Jerusalem as its undivided capital. December the 6th, 2017, Donald Trump decides to declare that Jerusalem is Israel's undivided capital. This orange map is actually a blessing. Do you know why? Because now people are waking up to the reality in East Jerusalem. Nothing has changed. East Jerusalem has been occupied. Nothing has changed. Israel's been treating it like it's part of Israel from the beginning. And the Palestinians have been oppressed as always. Donald Trump is a blessing. Why? He showed the true face of America. Two-state solution, peace process. Who are you kidding me? They've proven to you that they are not unbiased. They are mediating everything so that it can suit Israel's best interests. Donald Trump's exposed America, and for that I'm thankful. Before his announcement, no one was talking about Jerusalem. But now, thanks to him, we're all out here today. And we're shouting loudly, "Free Palestine," because we care. And he's ignited a spark in us once again to go out and show the world we care. And by the way, going out and protesting and making our voice heard is so important. The Arab leaders who are doing nothing, the reason some of them are not openly, like Saudi Arabia, supporting Israel or standing with Israel is because they fear their people's reaction to such a thing. That's why they have secret meetings that we all know about with Israel. Israel as a state right now is crumbling, and it's proving to the world that there's no such thing as a two-state solution. One state only, alright? And it's an apartheid state, and we need to stand up and show the world that we will continue protesting and we will continue demanding for equal human rights and for justice to be served. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Yahya. Okay, up next we have Andy Slaughter, MP of Hammersmith. He is a champion for Palestine in Parliament and a key voice in Labour Friends of Palestine and Middle East. Please welcome Andy Slaughter to the stage.
Thank you very much, comrades and friends. I'm Andy Slaughter, I'm the MP of Hammersmith, and I'm the Secretary of the Britain-Palestine group in Parliament. Today, when the Security Council was meeting to condemn Donald Trump, Jeremy Corbyn was at UN headquarters in Geneva to condemn outright as a threat to peace, as a reckless and provocative act, Donald Trump's actions. And yesterday in the House of Commons, Emily Thornley, the Shadow Foreign Secretary, said that this was because it incorporates the occupied territory of East Jerusalem into Jerusalem as the Israeli capital, that this was a hammer blow to the entire peace process. I want to see our government condemning this in the same terms. I don't want to hear Boris Johnson and Theresa May saying, "We're dismayed, we're concerned, we disagree with this." I want them to condemn this, and I want them to take action. I was in the West Bank last month, exactly a month ago. I was in the West Bank. I want to tell you, this is not just another settlement, this is not just another blow to the Palestinians. This is a sea change in what is happening in Palestine. Firstly, because it means that America has now come down absolutely 100% on the Israeli side. And secondly, because the facts on the ground mean it will no longer be possible for there to be an independent Palestinian state, and leading Palestinians have said the two-state solution is now dead. What I can tell you, positive thing I can tell you, across Parliament, across all parties, this has been condemned. 90 MPs wrote to Boris Johnson today demanding that in response to this we recognise the state of Palestine as we recognise the state of Israel in 1950, and that is the battle that we will now fight. But the other people we must remember is you. Everybody here who's come out in the cold tonight to protest, who are angry about this, because around the world many millions of people are angry about this. And whatever the governments, whatever the states may say, whatever Trump says, the power of people to stand up for the Palestinians and the power of the Palestinian people themselves will triumph, and we will have a free Palestine, a sovereign Palestine, and an independent Palestine. Thank you very much. Thank you, Andy. Okay, I'm going to introduce you to an important young Palestinian voice. You all know her. She was thrown out of the Jack Petchey speaking challenge because of pressure from the Israel lobby, because she wanted to speak about Palestinian rights. She is refusing to be silenced, and she's here today with a message
for Donald Trump. Lian Mohammed.
Sisters and brothers, my name is Lian Mohammed and I am a 17-year-old British Palestinian. I stood here in front of you on the 4th of November calling for peace and justice for my Palestinian people and an apology from the British government. 100 years after Balfour, we hoped 2017 would bring us an apology for the Balfour Declaration. It did not happen, and now we are marking 100 years of Balfour's another manifestation of it by Trump, giving what he doesn't own to who doesn't deserve. Following the footsteps of where Balfour left off, how many more decisions and unjust acts of colonial structures will be enforced upon my Palestinian people? How many more decisions and unjust acts will be made and enforced upon my Palestinian people? How can one not condemn this act if they have any consideration for social justice? I used to have one disastrous day of history on the 2nd of November 1917 when Britain gave away my homeland. Today, I add on the 6th of December 2017 when Trump recognised our capital Jerusalem as the capital of the so-called Israel. But believe me, when Trump says that Jerusalem is the capital of Israel, the so-called settler colonialist apartheid state, he does not speak for me and nor does he speak for all of us here today. This move is dangerous, illegal and unilateral. Trump's shameful decision is disastrous, completely disregarding international law and violating Palestinians' human rights. It is completely reckless and provocative, undermining the rights of my Palestinian people. In violating international law and legitimising Israel's apartheid rule in Jerusalem, international law will no longer serve as a framework for securing the rights of the Palestinians. Israel is an apartheid state, founded on the illegal occupation of Palestine by the Israeli military, and it will never be rewarded for its continuous illegal occupation upon my Palestinian people. For us Palestinians, and for all of us here today, Jerusalem was the capital of Palestine, and it still is, and it will always be. Trump's statement will never change this fact. Jerusalem is part of my identity as a Palestinian, and Jerusalem is all of our dignity. They may change this on the paper or on the news, but they will never change it in our hearts and in our memories and in our history. They cannot rewrite history, and they can never erase our history with a stroke of a pen. This is a systematic destruction of a nation and its people. Jerusalem will never be the capital of an illegal occupier. Jerusalem is certainly not Trump to give away. And so, I call on all of you to take a stand for the Palestinians going through 100 years of oppression, aggression and injustice. Palestinians who are still occupied, who are still violently forced from their lands, and who are still the victims of the shameful support of Western governments, from the Balfour Declaration to the US Embassy move to Jerusalem. As Jeremy Corbyn said, this is a reckless threat to peace. Peace will never be achieved as long as my people are occupied. Peace will never be achieved as long as my people continue to be denied basic human rights. And peace will never be achieved as long as the Palestinians continue to live under apartheid. I feel the weight of the Palestinian cause on my chest, the injustice, the anger and the oppression, a weight and feeling I will carry with me until the day justice prevails. When injustice becomes law, activism becomes a responsibility. This decision will only make us more insistent to speak out much further and much wider for the fight of human rights. Our solidarity now is sanctuary. Our love for Palestine will only go stronger, and we will only become bolder. We will continue to insist on our freedom. We all need to stand up and say Jerusalem is, and it will always be, the capital of Palestine. We will continue our mission for freedom as we did before, and we will continue to fight against the occupation and colonisation of our historic Palestine. Long live Palestine, long live Jerusalem, and long live our resistance! Together, in our thousands and in our In our thousands, in our millions. We are all Palestinians. And together, we will always raise our voices for a free Palestine. Free, 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 free Palestine.
Thank you, Leanne. Great words from Leanne again. Can I just say, before I bring the next speaker, can I just ask the first few rows, please can you bring your placards down because the sound is not traveling. Please can I ask you to do that for me? Thank you very much. And also, lovely people over here on the side, can I ask that you are very careful because there is a gap in front of you and we don't want any injuries today. Yeah, please be careful. There is a gap there. Don't try and come forward. Okay, so up next we have a great broadcaster, journalist and a champion for Palestine. We have Mr. John Rees. Please welcome John.
It's not really a surprise that Donald Trump should support the Israelis robbing Jerusalem from the Palestinians. Because he's a thief. Not a surprise that a land robber should support the land robbers. Not a surprise that the imperialists should support the colonialists. Not a surprise that we will have to resist to the very last breath everything that the Netanyahu government, backed up by the Trump administration, tries to do to the Palestinians and to their supporters internationally. That's why we're here tonight, to send a message. You have picked on the wrong people. Decades of violence and oppression have not stopped the Palestinians. Decades of violence and oppression have not stopped solidarity with the Palestinians. And if you think for one moment that we are going to be stopped by this, you are utterly mistaken. And remember this, Donald Trump has a lot of enemies because he detests Palestinians, but he also detests blacks, he detests women, he detests the poor, he detests 99% of us, and there aren't very many people lined up on his side, because when it comes right down to it, people don't like bigotry, they don't like hatred, they don't like oppression, but they do like the joy of resistance, of standing up for what's right, of fighting for justice. And we will be doing that not only tonight, but when Donald Trump himself comes to this country on a visit in February. We are going to make sure that there is not an inch of this land, not an inch of this capital that isn't filled with protesters telling the bigot to get back to his own country. So go away tonight. It's a cold night in London town, but we are going to light a fire that will be seen all the way from here to Jerusalem. Because we know that this is a dark hour for the Palestinian people, but our message to them is never give up, never relent, and we will always stand alongside you in solidarity. You are not alone, and you will never be alone while we demonstrate on the streets of London and our fellows demonstrate on the streets of every capital on the globe to say solidarity to the Palestinian struggle. Dump Trump, drive him out of London when he comes in February.
Thank you, John. Next we have Ubay, who is a chairman of Islamic community Milli Garouche. Please welcome Ubay.
In the name of Allah, the most merciful, the most gracious, I give you greetings from our chairman in Germany of Islamic community, Milli Garouche. Since our establishment 45 years ago, we have always been side by side with the Palestinian people. We are very passionate about Jerusalem, and we believe it should be a symbol of peace, it should be a symbol of love, it should be a symbol of respect. Today, like the protests we have here, we have protested in over 15 cities in Europe, in 81 cities in Turkey, and we're planning this Sunday to have 1.5 million man march in Istanbul. So we are all with you today, and we are not alone. It's been 50 years since Israel invaded the West Bank, East Jerusalem and Gaza. The international world continues to cry out about the oppression of the Palestinians, the human rights abuses. The United Nations in different platforms have declared that Israel's settlement policy is unlawful, demanding an end to the practice. Many governments and non-government organizations, independent journalists and the international community has to this day rejected Israel's occupation, and exactly for this reason established their embassies not in the so-called capital city, Jerusalem, but rather in Tel Aviv. Jerusalem. Jerusalem has a vast and rich and multicultural history, and it is one of the most important and loved cities in the world. Despite all of this, comes along Mr. Donald Trump. Since his beginning of his electoral campaign, he has resorted to Islamophobic, sexist, racist, illogical and frankly destructive views and actions. And this time he has gone too far. The declaration that occupied Jerusalem is the capital of Israel does not comply with political, diplomatic and ethical principles. We invite everyone who respects international law and stands against discrimination and rights abuse to protect the city, holy city of all religions, and call out Trump on the invalidity of his decision. Jerusalem, which is not only holy for Muslims but also for Christians and Jews, needs to be left out of political equations. My dear brothers and sisters, I am from the Turkish culture, and I am one of the grandchildren of the Ottoman Empire, which governed Jerusalem for over 500 years in peace, my brothers. And it is possible to govern Palestine with peace. And I ask that for the Muslims, for the Christians, for the Jews, Jerusalem is a city which is connected to the heavens. It has a spiritual side and it has a physical side. And if anyone wants to govern Jerusalem, they must consider this, and they must respect all the religions and must govern with love, respect and care. Thank you very much. God bless you all. Assalamu alaikum.
Okay, thank you. Okay, there are thousands of you here tonight. There are protests happening right now in Brighton, in Bristol, in Manchester, in Cambridge, all across the UK in 10 cities. There are people on the streets standing up for Palestinian rights. It is my great pleasure now to introduce to you the voice of the Palestinian people in the UK, His Excellency Manuel Hassassian.
Brothers, sisters, comrades, the guns of Israel did not silence the Palestinian people. neither statements coming from the United States and President Trump will never silence the voices of freedom. This reckless president, who is flagrantly challenging the international law and all the conventions that have always said that Jerusalem is an occupied city, we tell them Jerusalem is ours and it's not theirs. The United States for the last 25 years have been giving us hollow promises. Now they have showed their brazen statement against human rights, against the Palestinian people. Let us stop this charade of defending human rights. America is encouraging colonialism. America is encouraging imperialism. America is trying to basically silence the freedom of people who have been suffering for the last 50 years under this occupation. And they consider themselves to be brokers of peace. They are not brokers of peace. They have made their choice. Their choice is against the international community. Their choice is against international law. Their choice is with the occupiers. Their choice is with the extremists. This is what President Trump is epitomizing by such a statement. We tell President Trump, this is not going to change the status quo. We Palestinians are staying on our land. We are staying in Al-Aqsa. We are staying in the Holy Sepulchre. We are not going to move. And if his statement is only a support that is verbal, we tell him that we, the Palestinians, are going to struggle and we are going to challenge, and we will stay there and to show the world that Jerusalem is the eternal capital of the Palestinian people. And we will continue in our struggle for freedom. And as I said, neither the guns nor these positions are going to shake us up, because we have a deep conviction that Jerusalem is our symbol of culture, religion, national, and it will continue to be our existence, our capital, until we free Palestine.
Free Palestine! Free Palestine!
Thank you, Daniel. Up next, we have Louise Reagan, who is president of the NUT, the National Union of Teachers. Please welcome Louise. Hello, and thank you very much for every one of you that is here. My name is Louise Reagan. I'm president of the National Education Union NUT section, one of the largest education union in Europe. And we are here to show solidarity with the people of Palestine. I've recently returned from a delegation and spent time in East Jerusalem, and we know that the Palestinian children there and their families are already extremely vulnerable. They are at risk of home demolitions, they have no security in their schools, and we know that their schools are also facing demolition. So this move will only exacerbate this situation and make the situation for those children and their families much worse. And that is unacceptable. We cannot allow this to happen. We know also that it's going to lead to increased violence in the area, and that again is going to make those children and their families very vulnerable. As a union, we condemn the actions of President Trump. It is unacceptable that he is interfering in this way, and we have to stand in solidarity with the people of Palestine to oppose what is happening and what he is proposing to do. And as a union, we will continue to visit Palestine, to spend time with the people of Palestine, and to call for justice
for the people of Palestine. It is unacceptable. This morning I spoke to a friend of mine in Palestine. He was really pleased that I told him people would be out on the streets tonight demonstrating. It is really important to the people in Palestine that we continue to spread their story, we continue to tell people here what is happening to them, and that we continue to stand in solidarity with them until we get freedom and justice for the people of Palestine. Thank you.
Thank you, Louise. Okay. Before I introduce the next speaker, I think you probably want to warm up a bit, don't you? I think you want to warm your voices up, don't you? So let's have the opportunity to do a bit of chanting. Free, free!
Palestine!
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 Right, thank you very much. Up next we have Imam Ajmal Masroor, who's very growing in popularity. He's a politician and a broadcaster. Please welcome Imam Ajmal Masroor.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to congratulate all of us all of us have come here bracing the very freezing cold weather. It's amazing to see so many people here. It's brilliant to see you all. Thank you very much for coming. We're all here to show our solidarity for our brothers and sisters in Palestine. We want Palestine to be free right now, right? So say with me, free, free!
Palestine!
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 Ladies and gentlemen, with our voices, we'll drown the voice of Donald Trump and his allies. We'll drown the voices of those lunatics who are causing trouble and those who are causing mayhem for Palestinian people. Palestinian people deserve freedom. And ladies and gentlemen, in our millions and in our billions, we are all Palestinians. In our millions, in our billions, we are all Palestinians. In our millions, in our billions, we are all Palestinians. Let the world know that we are all Palestinian. Ladies and gentlemen, in Palestine today, in Al-Aqsa Mosque, Muslims joined together to pray. And guess what the Imam in the mosque said today? Guess what the Imam in the mosque said today? In these other words he said, and I'm going to repeat for you. He said very carefully and clearly, your recognition means nothing to us. Your map means nothing to us. Your embassy is as illegitimate as the occupation it seeks to legitimize. Our land is our land. Our dignity is our dignity. Our determination is our determination. Our boycott is our boycott. Our Aqsa is our Aqsa, and our Palestine is our Palestine. Ladies and gentlemen, we will never, and we have never had any expectations from tyrants, dictators, and the stooges. We bow our heads to nobody but one God. We will continue our resistance and our resistance for freedom, even if the world has changed and ceased to acknowledge it. Ladies and gentlemen, we are with the Palestinians. We want freedom for Palestine. Free, free Palestine. Free, free Palestine. Free, free Palestine. And finally, just like we brought down South African apartheid government, just like we ended racism in South Africa, just like we will end in every part of the world injustices, we will see a free Palestine soon. We will see a free Palestine soon. So in our millions, in our billions, we are all Palestinians. I can't hear you. In our millions, in our billions, we are all Palestinians. In our millions, in our billions, we are all Palestinians. In our millions, in our billions, we are all Palestinians. Thank you very much. Long live Palestine. Assalamu alaikum.
Okay, I know your hands are cold, I know your feet are cold, I know you're cold in other places, but I know your souls are warm because you're fighting and standing up for justice. We've got a few more speakers for you. I'm pleased to introduce one of the leading Palestinian voices in the UK, Rajab Shamlak.
Ladies and gentlemen, friends and supporters, 100 years after the Balfour Declaration, when a privileged white man gave our country to another privileged white man is giving our Jerusalem to others. Shame on him. From this place, we say to Donald Trump what Thomas Jefferson said: the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. We Palestinians, with your support, we will continue to pursue these basic human values with unyielding determination. And this is what our people back home in Palestine are doing today when they are confronting the Israeli soldiers with their bare feet, with their bare hands, to prove to the international community that Jerusalem is a red line and cannot be crossed, and Jerusalem is very precious to all Palestinians to the extent that they are willing to sacrifice their life for Jerusalem. Let me be clear, ladies and gentlemen. 100 years after Balfour Declaration, this is not another catastrophe for the Palestinian people. This is a catastrophe for peace. Let me be clear. This action by the United States President is illegal. He has violated international law. He has shown that the US are clearly on the side of Israel, the occupier. He has shown his support for occupation and military violence. This action by the United States President is an insult to justice. This is an insult to peace. This is an insult to Palestinian people, Muslim and Christian. Jerusalem is not a land, is not Donald Trump's to give away. Jerusalem is not America's to give away. I have to tell you, ladies and gentlemen, Donald Trump is not a politician. He is a gangster and he is a bully. The President of the United States should work for peace. He should be an example to the world and he should uphold the law. But this President provokes violence. He stamps on the victims and he strengthens the lawbreakers. He is a pyromaniac who will ignite the whole of the Middle East in flame. Our leader Yasser Arafat said this, and it is still true today. The voice, the victory march will continue until the Palestinian flag flies in Jerusalem and in all Palestine. Free, free Palestine! Free, free Palestine! Free, free Palestine!
Thank you. Up next we have a representative from Stand Up to Trump Coalition, Shabir Laka. Please welcome Shabir.
Assalamu alaikum, brothers and sisters. I salute each and every one of you for being here. This week Donald Trump announced that the US recognizes Jerusalem to be the capital of Israel. Well, we're standing here today to say no. Categorically no! We don't recognize you or yet the authority that you think you have to give away Jerusalem. His announcement comes exactly 70 years after the United Nations adopted the partition plan that made Jerusalem an independent city with international oversight. Israel's occupation of Western Jerusalem in 1948 and its annexation of East Jerusalem in 1967 has never been recognized as lawful. In 1980, the United Nations Security Council categorically stated that the occupation of Jerusalem is a violation of international law. So let's have no misgivings that Trump's announcement on Wednesday is a violation of international law. His announcement also comes just a month after we marked the 100-year anniversary of the Balfour Declaration. And in that context, his words are fitting, because for 100 years decisions have been made about the fate of the Palestinians, and for 100 years Palestinians have had no say in these decisions. For 100 years consistently the Palestinians have been told what they deserve or don't deserve, and consistently they've been told they have to accept it, they have to stay calm and not hinder peace. Malcolm X famously said that in America it is only the black people that are asked to be non-violent, and the Palestinians know this too well, because 100 years of colonization, ethnic cleansing, occupation and apartheid, the bombing of Palestinian children in their homes and the imprisonment of them, and it's the Palestinians who are told that they have to be calm. And this brings me to the shameful response of our government. After weekly saying that they disagree, Theresa May went on to say that she urges Trump to present his proposal and that she will go along with what he proposes, that regardless of how it paves the way to erase Palestinian rights completely. Theresa May made a big mistake this year by calling a general election. But the first mistake she made was to go across to the United States to be the first world leader to meet Trump and hold his hand. She has backed herself into a corner, and she has no credibility, no backbone and no authority. She is utterly useless. And I'll finish with this by saying that our message here today is threefold. It is firstly to the Palestinian people. We send you our undivided and eternal support and solidarity. Your struggle will always be our struggle. Your very existence is resistance, and we stand with you. Secondly, to Theresa May, we have no confidence in you. And so long as you side with the oppressors of Palestine, as long as you align with Donald Trump, we will not stop taking to the streets against you and your shambolic government. And lastly, to Donald Trump, the British people have no doubt that you are a racist, a sexist, a warmonger, with no regard for international law or the lives that your actions cost. You are many things, but the one thing you're not is welcome over here. And if you have the audacity, if he has the audacity to show his orange face over here, he will be met with the biggest protest he could ever imagine. We will bring this city and every city he tries to come to a complete standstill until he has no choice but to leave. And on those marches, among other things, we will shout proudly, "Free, free! Palestine! Free, free! Palestine!" So brothers and sisters, I urge you, get involved with Stand Up to Trump, pledge to march in February if he comes, and let's mobilize the masses to bring down the so-called special relationship that Theresa May has with Donald Trump, and to never, ever forget Palestine. So with your fists in the sky, in our thousands, in our millions, in our thousands, in our millions, free, free Palestine! Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Shabir. Up next we have somebody who I think probably doesn't need an introduction, but there may be a few of you that may not have heard of him, so I'm going to do one anyway. We have a very famous singer and rapper coming up. I don't know whether you can guess. And he is also a champion for justice for Palestine. Please welcome to the stage, please give a round of applause to Loki.
This is for Palestine, Ramallah, Al-Quds, Gaza. This is for the child that is searching for an answer. Wish I could take your tears and replace them with laughter. Long live Palestine! 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 So we have just passed the 30th anniversary for the First Intifada, and it is important that in this time we take stock of where the victories were won. The victories were won by impeding disturbing and opposing and refusing to cooperate at every step of the way. We must be absolutely unambiguously clear. The only reason there isn't now metal detectors at the front of Al-Aqsa is because of the resistance that took place upon that basis. Civil disobedience, clear resistance to these schemes. The Palestinians have the absolutely unquestionable right to armed resistance under international law. That is unquestionable. But we must not pretend that the resistance is not multifaceted and there are not many, many different manifestations of that resistance that is in fact successful on a day-to-day basis. And it is that we call on people to do, whether here or inside Palestine or inside 48. Impede, resist, disturb, disrupt Zionism everywhere and anywhere you can, every day. That is what we must do. The other point I would like to make is this needs to lead to a seismic shift in the perception. The political elite were lying in 1936. The political elite lied in 1948. The political elite lied in 1967. They lied in 73, and they are lying today. Do not believe them. They are giving away the land from under your feet. Power functions over the top of our heads, under our feet, through our bodies, and through our tongues. Be aware that those who are currently peddling in the Palestinian cause are traitorous. They are liars, and they are selling the Palestinian cause to the Israelis. Let us also be absolutely clear that within this context, we have a clear choice. It is a choice between something that the US's proxies are now trying to sell. They're trying to sell what they call, in quotations, the Arab Initiative. But what is the Arab Initiative? It is a rehashed version of what Barack and Clinton offered to Arafat just before he refused at Camp David. What does that mean? That means that they want to rename Abu Dis al-Quds, and they want to trick people into taking a tiny slither of land. And that's something that even Mahmoud Abbas is not willing to try and sell to the Palestinian people. And this is completely unacceptable. We must be absolutely clear of the mechanisms of power and how they function to try and corrupt movements and to try and trick people. Be aware that the proxies in the region are trying to sell a lie. They are trying to sell the same dead Oslo lies. That is unacceptable and will not be acceptable, not today or any time in the future. This is for Palestine, Ramallah, Al-Quds, Gaza. This is for the child that is searching for an answer. Wish I could take your tears and replace them with laughter. Long live Palestine! Long live Palestine! Long live Palestine! Long live Palestine! Now this plan of Donald Trump has been refused, not just by the quote-unquote international community. It is also refused by a majority of American jury. Not only on top of that, it has been refused by our terrorizer May. Let us be absolutely clear. This plan will be disrupted, it will be interrupted, it will be opposed, and people will not cooperate with this. A new reality has to form. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Loki. Right, up next we have a representative from the Muslim Association of Britain, who are also one of the co-organisers of today's rally. Please welcome on stage Ragad Al-Tikriti.
Dear friends, dear ladies and gentlemen, you will see that a lot of our messages are similar, and that does not take away from the message. That enforces that our message is simple. It's about justice. Yeah. It's about peace. Yeah. It's about granting Palestinians their rights. Yeah. Over the past couple of months, Palestinians have been slapped twice with painful realities. First, on the 2nd of November, when our government decided to celebrate the centenary of the Balfour Declaration that granted the land of Palestinians to the occupiers. Second is when Trump announced moving the US Embassy to Jerusalem and declared it as the capital of Israel against all international laws. One thing we learned is that while the Palestinians were patient over the past 26 years, hoping that the Western world would lead this so-called peace process, no one truly held the interests of Palestinians to heart. The parties involved in the peace process talks were concerned with legalizing the occupation and its crimes. All those who claimed they were active in the negotiations of peace were led by their own interests and by the pressure of the Israeli lobby in their countries. No other occupation and injustice has gone under the nose of our so-called democratic countries with hardly any real objections or anything beyond empty words. The real fact is that those countries are supporting the crimes of the Israeli occupation. It is their support that allowed the expansions of settlements, the continuous demolition of Palestinians' homes and lives. It's the support of those governments which saw the rise of an apartheid wall on the lands of Palestinians, causing them to be prisoners in their own land. Yet, it is open space for Israelis to wander freely, granted protection and entitlement. Out of the stupidity and arrogance of Trump, much of the reality has been exposed. There are no real intentions in ending the suffering of Palestinians or in granting them justice or freedom. Today, masks have been dropped and true intentions are exposed. No country is interested to stand up to Israel. In reality, US is acting on behalf of Israel. If Trump is supporting an occupation, then he is responsible for the crimes of that occupation. I do not think we have any right to label any resistance as terrorism. We would do the same if our country was faced with any kind of occupation or oppression. We would resist. We would fight for our rights. We would fight for justice and freedom. Palestinians are no different. They have endured this suffering since the occupation over more than 70 years ago. They have watched their land diminish right in front of their eyes, supported by the superpowers. We ask Palestinian leaders to stop their liaison with the occupation and to listen to their people, all of their people. We ask the Arab leaders, who I really am not very optimistic about, to stop following the footsteps of the US and to cut ties until real steps are taken to grant Palestinians their rights. Take serious stances. We request that our Prime Minister seriously addresses this dangerous announcement by Trump and emphasize on the fact that Jerusalem is occupied land and Palestinians and their supporters will not allow such a step to take place. This decision will see repercussions in the whole region initiated by our support of illegal occupation. Therefore, rather than strengthening the occupation, we should correct the mistakes that have been made in history and find justice for those who have been affected by the suppression. Otherwise, our children will remember us as the generation that continued to recognize oppression and occupation. And not only did we not change the status quo, but rather we stood by the oppressor. Let us not wait for lessons to be learned, but rather implement lessons for the future generations to learn from. Remember the saying of the late Nelson Mandela, a pioneer of resistance who was regarded as a terrorist previously. Our freedom is incomplete without the freedom of the Palestinians. No justice, no peace. No justice, no peace. No justice, no peace. Thank you.
Thank you, Ragad. Okay, I have a message. An apology from Caroline Lucas, the leader of the Green Party, who wanted to be here, but she sent us this message. Thank you for coming out at such short notice to send a powerful message to President Trump. We reject his preempting any future agreement on the status of Jerusalem. Yes. President Trump's inflammatory move is already causing untold damage, with ramifications that will be felt the world over. If ever there was a time for peace, it's now. let's leave Trump in no doubt about our commitment to that cause, to freedom, to ending the occupation and to justice. Caroline Lucas. Okay, stamp your feet a little. We got 3 final speakers for you and they're worth waiting for. First of all, my friend and brother, co-organisers of this event from Friends of Al-Aqsa, Shamil Jorda.
Thank you, Ben. Assalamu alaikum! Excellent, excellent. Right, a few requests. If you've got a mobile phone, put your light on. Put your light on, put your torch on. Yeah, if you've got enough battery, that is. And those at the back, can everyone put the banners down just for a little bit? Those at the back that are almost having a separate protest. Can you guys hear me at the back? Yeah. Tell those guys to turn, put the placards down. Okay, I can see some lights. These lights, you are the lights of truth. You are the lights of justice. You are the one standing here for Jerusalem. Together we say, hands off Jerusalem! 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 And brothers and sisters, friends and colleagues, you know what is housed in Jerusalem. You have the whole Church of Holy Sepulchre. You have Masjid Al-Aqsa. Let me tell you now, Masjid Al-Aqsa is non-negotiable. Non-negotiable. We must stand in justice and in strength and never be scared. We knew this time will come, but we cannot step back. We must look forward in strength. Together in this cold night, we have shown our strength, but we must come time and time again. Trump expects the process to disappear, expects people to forget, but we do not forget Masjid Al-Aqsa. We do not forget Jerusalem. In our du'as, day in, day out, in our activity, day in, day out, we come together in strength. Once again, hands off Jerusalem! Hands off Jerusalem! Hands off Jerusalem! Hands off Jerusalem! Please remember, get involved. Plenty of organisations, get involved. Stay active, keep us in your du'as. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Samuel. Right, up next we have Chris Nyland from Stop the War organisation, which are also one of the co-organisers of today's rally. Please put your hands together for Chris.
Thanks very much. I'd like to bring solidarity from the Stop the War Coalition. And I'd like to say, first of all, that we shouldn't mince our words when it comes to understanding Donald Trump. People say he's irresponsible. People say that he is unpredictable. I say the real truth is, unfortunately, that we have in the White House a warmonger and a fire starter. The statement, the appalling statement he made about Jerusalem was not a late night tweet. It was a considered, calculated insult to the Palestinian people, to the whole population of the Middle East, and to everyone around the world who believes in peace and in justice. And it's not just a provocation. Donald Trump represents a foreign policy pursued by the US that is now totally embracing bullying and brute force as a way of dealing with the world's problems. He has confronted the North Korean president with insults, with military escalation, and with a massive
attempt to strangle the country. He has in the Middle East tried to rip up the nuclear deal with Iran, and he is now supporting preparations for war that are being made by the Saudis, the Israelis, with the total cooperation of the United States. And its humiliation of the Palestinian people can only encourage, can only lead to further assaults by the Israelis against the Palestinian people. This man has no place in civilized politics. But he has also enraged people around the world. And he has created such opposition that we can say with confidence tonight to the world's media, to the people in the US consulate, to the Metropolitan Police and to our government, that if Theresa May's foolish invitation to Donald Trump stands, we will be so many in London that when he comes, if he comes, we will bring this capital to a standstill. And we must remember, just to end, that this is not just about Donald Trump. The whole of the US foreign policy establishment is now committed to more proxy wars and to more military interventions. Remember, Hillary Clinton was more of a hawk than Donald Trump during last year's election. We must redouble our efforts. We must stand shoulder to shoulder with the Palestinians. We must make sure the decision about Jerusalem is overturned. We must win freedom for the Palestinians, but we must also fight to make sure that our foreign policy positions that are pursued by this government are overturned. We need a complete change in foreign policy. We need an end to these foreign wars. We need an end to the support for the Israeli state. And we need an end to the special relationship with Washington. These are the things we have to fight for. These are the things that united we can win. Thank you very much. Keep up the fight and free Palestine.
Thank you, Chris. Right, up next we have our final speaker. He is from one of the co-organisers of today's rally, Chair of PSE. Please welcome Hugh Lanning.
Thank you all so much for coming out. There's thousands and thousands of you. But there's also demonstrations in Birmingham, in Brighton, in Cardiff, in Glasgow. 10, 11 other places are demonstrating today. And the thousands here, there's 20 supporters of Israel over there. That recognises the balance of popularity of Palestine in this country. And I've got news for Trump. You don't own Jerusalem. It's not yours to give away. And the Security Council has been meeting this afternoon. The US have said Israel has a right to claim Jerusalem. It does not. It belongs to the three major religions that have their history there. It belongs to the Palestinians, over 300,000 who live there. They have got no rights, but they should not be ethnically cleansed out of their historic capital and city. And the UK government brokering deals on Brexit. I've got two simple things it could do. It could recognise Palestine and it could cancel Trump's visit. Very simple. And what Trump has done now, he's gone outside the law. He doesn't want a peace settlement. He wants an Israel with a few Palestinian reservations within it. We need to start arguing for boycott, divestment and sanctions of Israel until they comply with international law. In the new year, the UN are going to publish a list of companies that are complicit with the occupation. We need to build a global movement that's going to make sure those companies quit Israel, quit the occupied territories, and make sure they stand up for international law. And you've got a job to do. It is brilliant, the support we've got here, but Trump's not going to back down because of a few protests around the country. We need to make sure we build that global solidarity movement, because Israel is now an apartheid regime and the whole world ought to be treating it as outlaws and making sure that there is no place for them in the free world until they comply with international law. So let's build that solidarity movement, join the organisations locally, let's multiply, mobilise and organise until there is a free Palestine. The support here is brilliant. I hope you're going to get warm on the journey home, but while you're going home, plan the next step, get involved in the next stage of the campaign, because this campaign will keep on going until there is a free Palestine. Thank you so much. Free, free! Free, free! Free, free! Thank you.
Okay, thank you.